Hello, everyone. Today, I learnt a very important lesson about being careful and not rushing things. When the Fat Controller asked Percy to take the very important sheep to the spring fair, Percy was so worried about being late that he wasn't very careful. He bumped the livestock wagon and made a big hole in it. But Percy was in such a hurry, he didn't notice. Every time Percy stopped, more of the sheep jumped out through the hole. And by the time Percy got to the fair, there were no sheep left in his wagon at all. Luckily, I found Percy's sheep, and I took them to the fair. Percy realized he'd been rushing so much he hadn't been very careful. If Percy had slowed down, he wouldn't have had an accident, and the sheep wouldn't have escaped. That's why it's important to be careful and not rush when you have an important job to do. Hello, everyone. Today, I learnt a very important lesson about being responsible. When the Fat Controller made James and me responsible for taking everyone to the dry-off football match, he asked us to work together. But then, we got into a silly argument over which team was the best, the Reds or the Blues. James and I were so busy hurrying to the match, we forgot about the important jobs the Fat Controller had given us. Then there was trouble. The football match hadn't started. James hadn't picked up the Barrow team, and I hadn't picked up the referee. Luckily, Percy saved the day. He brought both the team and the referee to the football ground. James and I realized the important thing wasn't which team was best, it was making sure everyone got to the match on time. That's why, when you're given a job to do, it's important to take responsibility for doing it properly. Hello, everyone. Today, I learnt a very important lesson about being honest. When I caused an accident at Brendam Docks, I didn't want to get into trouble. So I blamed an engine called Jeffrey. But Jeffrey didn't exist. I'd made him up so he could take the blame for causing the accident instead of me. But that made the problem even worse, because everyone wanted to meet Jeffrey. So I hid in a tunnel and pretended to be Jeffrey. Then there was trouble. Spencer came rushing into the tunnel and nearly crashed into me. Lying about my accident had made things worse. The Fat Controller told me that everyone makes mistakes, but that it's important to tell the truth and own up to them. That's why being honest is the right thing to do. Hello, everyone. Today, I learnt a very important lesson about owning up to your mistakes. Christmas is a very exciting time, but it's also a very busy time, especially on Sodor. And when you're rushing, accidents are more likely to happen. That's what happened to Cranky when he dropped a crate. Cranky didn't want to get into trouble, so he hid the crate instead of telling anyone. This led to confusion and delay. Cranky spent the day worrying about his mistake. But luckily, nothing in the crate was actually broken. Cranky realized he should have owned up to his mistake instead of trying to hide it. Being honest and admitting when you've made a mistake is the best thing to do. That's why it's always best to own up to your mistakes. Hello, everyone. Today, I learnt a very important lesson about listening to good advice. When James was asked to take the mayor and the Fat Controller to a ball, he wanted to look his best. But first, James had to finish his other jobs. That made him dirty. So James went to the washdown to get clean. Then, James found a little scratch on his paintwork. So he rushed to the steamworks to be repainted. Victor warned James his new paint wouldn't dry in time for James to do his special job. But James didn't take Victor's advice. Out on the tracks, dirt and leaves stuck to James's wet paint. Now James really did need repainting. And Edward got to take the mare and the Fat Controller to the ball. If James had listened to Victor's advice, he would have got to do the special job. And that's why you should always listen to good advice. Hello, everyone. Today, I learnt a very important lesson about being determined. When Mavis had to go to the diesel works for repairs, the Fat Controller asked Den to do her work at the quarry. But when Den tried to organise the troublesome trucks, they were, well, very troublesome. Toby and Henrietta told Den he needed to be firm with the trucks. That was how Mavis did it. Even though it was a hard job, Den didn't give up. He took a deep breath and he showed those trucks that he was in charge. Den soon had everything under control, even the troublesome trucks. And when Mavis came back, she thanked Den for doing such a great job. That's why being determined and not giving up helps you get things done. Hello, everyone. Today, I learnt a very important lesson about working as a team. It's usually Rocky who comes to the rescue when one of us gets derailed. But when Rocky came off the tracks, no one could agree how to help him. Everyone wanted to be the one who rescued Rocky, and everyone thought they could do it without help from anyone else. But Rocky is a big, heavy crane, and no matter how we tried, none of us could lift him on our own. Then Rocky told us that we could do it if we all worked together. So we all worked as a team. Rocky was heavy, but eventually we managed to get him back on the tracks. When we worked together, we did something none of us could do on our own. That's why working as a team is a great thing to do. Hello, everyone. Today, I learnt a very important lesson about making sure you tell someone when you're going somewhere. When Hero had an accident and needed new parts, I decided to help find him some. I thought if I went back to the woods where I first met Hero, I may find some of his old parts. But I didn't tell anyone where I was going. Then there was trouble. The old rails had given way, and I got stuck in the mud, and no one knew where I was to come and help me. I tried to call for help, but no one could hear me. Luckily, Harold saw my steam, and soon my friends came to rescue me. I realized that because I hadn't told anyone where I was going, no one knew where I was. I was very lucky that Harold saw me. That's why it's always important to tell someone where you are going.